It's just like however it turns out, you know. I don't really have too much of a structure for it.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
You got like a cracker or something like that?
Yeah.
I have something that's just stuck right in my throat, and it's like this water's not putting it down. Thanks. Just I need something to force feed it down. Knock her down.
Yeah, knock her down.
Yeah.
Anything bagel cracker?
That's fine. No water's great. Oh yeah.
You want them here? Or
That's good.
you good?
What was what do you call it? Capsule.
Yeah. Oh.
That's what I got somewhere.
Hazy Rays or a Tangerine Express if you want one. You want a beer or not?
Good.
Cool.
Yeah. I think I knocked it down.
Hell yeah.
All right.
We're in business. What's up, George?
Hey, are we recording now?
Oh yeah.
We are?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Recorded your cracker incident and all.
Oh, man. I'm better.
It's okay. Let it start. What's up? What's going down?
Oh, I don't know. Just living life,
How's your
enjoying
eyeball?
it.
Yes. Cool.
Yep.
George McMorrow enjoys life even with the scratched cornea.
Yeah.
Just move this over.
Yep. It's like, I guess, like the warranty on my body is slowly but surely expiring.
The manufacturer doesn't want to keep repairing you.
Yeah, that's true. It's funny, you know, you go for so long and have that indestructible vibe that you know, as you're growing up, you know, you test the limits of everything. And then as you get older, it's like, you know, you don't heal as fast and, you know, and then suddenly then stuff starts just breaking down without you even injuring it. So it is what it is. I mean, there's a lot to be said for, you know, keeping in shape and trying to keep busy so that, you know, I think once you hit a point, you become a little bit tired, you start doing less stuff, and I think your body doesn't do well when you
Your body hates being stagnant. Huh?
Yeah, I think that's the problem.
Yeah. How old are you at this point? Not to
Right
put you on blast.
now, 69.
Okay, George still runs around like a madman, lifting cases. Doesn't even let me lift any fucking thing ever for him.
Well, I can't lift anything now
That's
because
true.
I detached my retina, so it's about 2 or 3 months of no lifting or playing golf or doing anything
How'd
fun.
you do that again?
It just happened, I guess. That's
Oh,
what the
just
doctor said
broke.
when he saw it. He said, you know, don't blame yourself. This can just happen sometimes.
You're watching too much porn.
Maybe that was it. I was thinking, yeah. Well, he thought I had, once he did the surgery and I kept going back in there and then he kept saying, oh, you got a scratch on your cornea. And I was like, and then he's like, oh, well, we're going to do this. And he kept putting eye patches back on me, eye patches. And then go see him, take the eye patch off. Then I go see him 2 days later. Oh, and put the eye patch back on. Then he had me see a cornea specialist before I saw the cornea specialist, I saw this other eye doctor that's a friend of mine. He's an eye surgeon. And he thought I had like herpes on my eye.
Yeah.
And I was like, man,
great.
that's
Thanks.
nasty. So this guy said it's not a herpes, but it's like, it was like a piece of my corneas like was missing or got, you know, maybe during the surgery. I don't know what happened, you know. So I'm on anti-herpes medication now, which makes me a little crazy, you know.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So I've been on that for, went through one refill. Now I'm on another one. So it's like a couple of weeks of that, but.
What is it like? Make you like jittery or like what is it? Just different feeling?
Yeah, it makes you feel a little,
spacey.
a little bit like, like you're getting like, not like an anxiety attack, but like a little dizzy, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But, with the kind of work that I do.
Like you're always forgetting something.
Well, no, I overdo it, because I always think I'm going to forget. I always think that every time I'm working, I always think it's like one more thing. It's like, I got that from like the bridge on the River Kwai movie. The guy goes, there's one more thing. You got to remember one more thing. Don't forget it. Every time you do something, you got one more thing. And it's funny. Usually there is one more thing, when you jump in the car and you're going, oh, damn, I forgot this. Or I would be okay without it, kind of a thing.
That's funny.
So, but, and it's been okay. So what that did was, when I do like more higher end shoots or celebrities or, people in high end government, I used to get to that point where the younger me, I had a little bit of anxiety going towards these type of things. You'd be driving up there and you're doing the CEO of the company and all that stuff too. And, and of course you have to drive to Newark or to New York or wherever you're going. And, you'd be driving up there and like, oh, what are we going to do? What's going to go wrong today? Because you're depending on everybody else on your shoot, right? So I got to that point, I think, where I just said, you know what? I don't care. I mean, I don't belittle my work and anything like that. I just think I'm going to do my best that I can do on every single job I do. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't work out for some reason, okay.
And you got pretty high standards.
I do.
Sure.
I do.
But then it does come to a point where you just gotta let shit go. It's like, some shit's not gonna fucking happen the way you want.
Well, you always set for perfection, and if you don't hit perfection, then it's still good. It's still excellent, and you set for excellent. That's it. It chips it down a little bit every time. And the problem is, which I've learned over the years, is you can't depend on everybody, and you have to know your equipment. You have to know your situation, and if you could do that and get through a job, without, depending that this guy's going to bring this guy's going to know that, this guy's going to cover it. So it does tend to make me micromanage a little bit, but I pull back on that, and I do that with people that work for me, and I'm sure you know that, and my daughter, and if other people where I would do it a little bit differently, but then I kind of like say, okay, maybe the way you're doing it is better. Who knows? I might learn from you. So I try to keep my eyes open and have, they call it like new vision or new eyes, like when I look at something, like I'm looking at it for the first time, and I treat every shoot like that this is not something I'm going to phone in, that I'm going to it's going to get my best effort no matter what happens, and I'm going to do the stuff that, and the thing is, I try to over deliver, and it helps, because to me, I feel like talent wise, I'm kind of under talented compared to like a lot of other people. There's people that can come in, do stuff. I'm blown away. They're amazing, but I feel that in order for me to do that, I really have to work like 3 times as hard just to get the same quality that somebody else can get, just by showing up and winging it, so that's my thing. So.
Yeah, you do good work, so it's like,
well,
great.
Yeah, I do try. I try to make sure that everything I do is the best I can do, and you know what? The problem is too, which doing video yourself, is that there's no like BSing people once you do a video. You can't talk people into liking a video.
Yeah. Like it either is good and they
it's
like
good
it,
or it's not.
It's not good.
Yeah.
I know, and that's even if it's different. Like even people have different expectations. Like it's still. everybody wants to make their excuse, but if it's good, it's good, and if it's not, it's not.
Yeah.
And that's like kind of sometimes the fucking bottom line. But like I know, even just working, it's funny because some people will try and like cut a little corner or something like that, and I just know from working with you because even say the slightest thing about I might try to do something easier. George's like, no, you do the job the best you freaking do it every single time you can. But it's true because then like it goes back, and I've saved my own ass a couple of times where people are trying to fuck around, and it's like, no, we do the job the best we do it because George told me to do that, and then it fucking works out. But
I've been lucky, yeah. I guess I get really lucky with working with good people too, and you know, it's. A lot of people have different ideas about different things too, and I'm always open to suggestions. And sometimes when you do it, it's maybe not as great as you would think. But you know what? Things don't get any better if you keep doing them the same way every single time. You know, I mean, if this is your best shot, like I take my best shot at something. If that's my best shot and I do it the same way every time, it's only gonna that's the top of the mountain for me. Mm-hmm. But if I let other people bring in what they say, it can get better and better. You never know. I mean, you never know because you look at there's a lot of stuff, especially I would say in cinematography. The looks that people have, you can go through movies and old shows, and you could tell almost when they were shot by the way they look, by how, you know, the way their color is, the way the film looks, old movies and all that stuff too. Yeah. And you're looking at it, and because they did not, you know, incorporate the same type of stuff that they have now, and also they have different things that have come. That are kind of in vogue, that like the shaky cam, you know, that was, if you did that, you know, before it became in vogue, people were like, dude, you don't know what the hell you're doing. I see it. I see your camera's moving.
The running gun, like
and it's what they call that point of view. Look, you know, where
it's like The Office.
It looks cool, boys. You know, like when you know it's somebody lurking in the bushes when all of a sudden the camera's kind of moving around and it looks through the pokes through the bushes. You're like, that's a guy, you know, or a woman, you know, whatever. Yeah. But or an animal, you know. But it's kind of funny, and they've, you know, I had one friend of mine that worked on a video for Guns N' Roses, and it was on film, and he was supposed to tell them to. I think they shot it one way, and a lot of times, you know, they call what they call pulling the film out like one stop or two stops, or pushing it one stop or two stops. And when you're shooting film, you know, whatever was exposed, that's the way the film's going to come out. But if you know, you shot it a little bit, you know, too much exposure, you might pull it out a little bit quicker out of the developer, you know. Or if you didn't shoot, you know, you didn't have the light, you might push it by leaving it in an extra few minutes, right? And he was supposed to tell him to push it, and he told him to pull it one stop or two stops, right? And what they did was it made it look all washed out. But of course, Guns N' Roses liked the guy using it anyway, and everybody was calling him after that and saying, wow, man, dude, that looked
what a creative decision you made to blow it out like that for them.
You never know.
Yeah, how'd you know to do that for those guys?
Yeah, it's cool, you know, and you see there's a lot of the different, like, look at some of these old music videos too, where they just did whatever they wanted to do, and it's different, you know.
I know, even some of those, like, you go to like a barber shop or like something like that, and they have like the music videos playing. It's like those old popular songs. You're like, that's it, just y'all in the street. That's
true. That's true. And you know, it's cool, and I like it that, you know, people are saying now that, oh my God, you guys missed it because the only good music was, you know, back.
I think we're in the golden age of music. There's just so much.
There's a lot, and you know
I
what?
think
It
there's
always
so
gets
much.
that. But when I was, in the '60s, and I was, listening to rock and roll and all that stuff too, and it's just coming in. I mean, we were listening first just to AM radios,
Yeah.
and then then they came out with the FM radios in the late '60s in WAW New York and that. But you were exposed to what you were exposed to. You didn't know, you weren't listening to albums. You were listening to whatever one song they picked out, the hits or whatever, and I still remember people like, oh, this music is like, it sucks, and the music that was really good was the music of the '40s or '50s, and it was great music too. It was brilliant music back then.
I'll just
big
say,
band
I think
stuff.
I'd say it's a golden age now because
Mhm.
we have all of those albums, but they're remastered, and then we have new music.
And some people don't like the way they're remastered,
But we
too.
still have the original albums,
Yeah,
so
you
they
have
can-
those,
they can
and they're
suck
still. Yeah, it's funny now. People are buying, the vinyl, and
I know,
they're
right?
like,
Isn't
"Oh
it
my
funny?
God, you don't know what it's the difference." And I have,
You're
I
like,
have
yeah.
an old analog system, an old Crown amp and a preamp, and all this stuff, and I turn it on sometime. And I go, oh my God, you forget how much better when you have like a high quality system. Back then, we spent all our money on these component systems, to have. My one friend had these electrostatic speakers, and they were like, 5 foot tall and tilted back, and you would, and there was so much power that was coming through these speakers. And it wasn't that it was loud, but it had that separation where if you were listening to like a band playing or an orchestra, you'd be in the middle of the room and listen, like you could think that, wow, the guy's over here playing, this guy's over here playing, the separation on it was crazy. And if you took a fluorescent light bulb and you put it in front of the speaker, the light bulb would light up.
Whoa.
It was crazy. Yeah, they were called electrostatic panels. And they were nuts. And then they had the Bose speakers, the 501 Bose speakers that were like octagon shaped. And they had their own little amplifier. Like when you bought the speakers, you got the little amplifier. And it was almost to that point of... if you didn't have that, if you just bought the speakers, like they weren't really that good, but they had this. And the speakers were octagon shaped, and they had the cloth on the front of the speakers, but you did not face the speakers towards the people listening. You face them towards the wall because they would bounce the music.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That is wild.
Yeah.
Because that's nuts. Now,
I know, right? But all these different people are
I'm
coming up with so much stuff. You know why? Because they didn't know enough to color inside the lines. Because there was no lines.
Yeah,
I
dude,
mean, these guys. Yeah.
That's so fucking cool. Because I'm learning all about that now, working for K-Sound.
Yeah.
And so, working how to shoot rack or line array speakers.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff like that, and angling line arrays, and then shooting that in the program, and all of it's so programmed now, so with the shit. But it's crazy to think so a guy was like, oh, we can get more separation by bouncing the sounds in different directions. Fuck it, that's nuts.
It's crazy,
That's
and the funny part is that when you have these people that have these machines that can analyze, the way the music's coming through and the separations, they could do the mathematics.
Yeah.
They can figure out all this stuff, the sine, cosine, what's it going to happen here, and but. The human ear, I mean, you like what you like, people you can figure it out, say, well, this is technically perfect, and you're listening, I don't really like it, I was working with the Blues Brothers, I remember, and great band, the Steve Cropper is the guitar player, probably has been, I don't know, I looked it up once, I think maybe 30 500 or 3,200, 3,800 different albums this guy has been on. You know, he's produced Jeff Beck. He's had guitar. You know, and Soul Man. When they say play it, Steve, that's Steve Cropper. Anyway, this guy he's something, and he's been around forever. They had turned out Stax Records they were sometimes turning out 2-3 hits a day, right? So I was with them. I remember it was wherever it was in Greece or Italy or something like that. And the musical director was this guy, Leon Pendarvis, who's very well respected, was the head of the Saturday Night Live band forever, you know, musical director for them. He's been playing with a million different people, great person. And he was talking about doing the music was, well, we can do this and cut this and bring this here and do that and then bring this, you know, he's talking about the arranging on the songs. And Steve Cropper, who you think is more kind of, he's like from Tennessee or something, you know, and he's a little down home, really super nice guy, very warm person, great person, was named like the best rhythm guitar player ever, you know, kind of a person. And he's like, oh, we can't do that. And he's like, and you know, Pendarvis looked down like, he goes, you can't take soul and slice it up and cut it up and make it something. He said, it's a feel thing. It's all a feel thing. And that's why I say that. That's why I think that people, you know, this golden age of music and this and that, and they're never going to have it like that. I think it's all because these people have this feeling in the vibe. They don't have people telling them, no, that's not good. You can't do that, you know.
Yeah. I think it's like you stick to when you felt it the hardest, probably.
Yeah, they have a documentary on this, Bill Withers, you know, and he did that song, you know, Ain't No Sunshine When She's Gone, and you know, and a few other stuff. And he was saying, a great documentary on him, and he was saying, you know, he could never get his music out nowadays because music has to follow that certain, you know, the bridge and the thing, the chorus of that. And he says his songs never did that, and they were too long. And, you know, he's got this song, you know, Ain't No Sunshine, where he's like, I know. Where he just keeps going on and on. He said they would never let anybody do that now. And it's just funny. And he was was in the Navy and worked as a mechanic or something, you know, or worked for the, you know, doing something, painting or something. I don't know what it was, but he was definitely a laboring type job. Yeah. It was like 30 years old when he started, and just got in and started doing it. And it was brilliant because I think that was the point I was making before, is that sometimes it's better when you don't know. You're just doing it any way you want to do it.
You're just doing it to do it. And that's why, like, now I feel like I was running with my head down through brick walls, like after brick wall since like 19 years old. When I dropped out of school, I was getting door-to-door job, just wanted to make money, do shit, be successful. And then it came to a point, one of my friends that hires me for video now in Brooklyn, super cool dude, he's like, what's the rush? He's like, why don't you just fucking enjoy yourself? Like, we're all out here, like, you're getting hired now, like, you're doing your thing. Like, what is, like, we're gonna be successful. Like, we know that. We're gonna work hard. We know that.
Yeah.
Like, what is the rush? Also, then when you look back at, like, Oprah, Harrison Ford, you know, who else? Harrison Ford was, like, a carpenter at, like, 35, something like that.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of those guys Quentin Tarantino, like older people, didn't do their first movie.
Right, he was working in a video store, you know, and watched movies and got that. He learned School of Hard Knocks, you know, learned by listening and doing.
And then they did more of what they wanted to do.
And liked what he liked and picked out what he wanted. And you know, that whole thing when you're directing a film too, anytime you're directing, you're not directing robots, you know, you're directing human beings, and they're going to do what they want to do. And you can't whip them and make them behave exactly the way they want. They want to bring their stuff, you know, they want to have their fingerprints all over their characters and that. And, you know, like this short film that we just shot together, I mean, were those guys, you know, I mean, you know, they were doing it the way they wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And would have been the way I would have wanted them to do it if I was a director. I might have been at some time in my life.
Mm-hmm. You were pretty
micromanage the stuff of,
yeah.
And I try to not be overbearing on that.
Yeah, you were pretty in the back that,
I did, and I purposely did that because, you know, my friends are, you know, I mean, I worked with Liz years and years ago and on a sitcom, and we did 2 movies that we worked on together, and and she calls me 15 years later, or 10, however long it was, and can you help me on this thing?
Yeah.
Can you? And I put the crew together, and we try to do that. But I told her that, of which I do that anytime I'm on a shoot, I do not cross that line of telling people how to do their stuff unless I am the main boss, that I have to tell people what to do.
Yeah.
I mean, so I try to keep it into that thing, and I try to make everybody fair. And you know, some of the people, the guy that was the executive producer was his first foray into doing films, and he saw the people that I hire. I like people that are efficient in what they do and not coming in there and BSing and, you know, wasting time and all that. Let's get it together. Let's do that. Because anytime you do any job like that, and of which I told them, I mean, I'll tell them certain things. Like I told them, listen, however we're working now, I know it looks like we have a lot of time to do everything.
Yeah.
But by the end of the day, we're all going to be like racing through. Okay, let's get this shot. Okay, that's good enough. Okay, let's move that and get the shot. Oh, okay. You know what? Just move that light. We don't have to redo anything. And, you know, that's the annoying part to me, is when it suffers because everybody kind of rushes through that end shots.
Because you chilled in the beginning and you didn't want to
And you know what? When you're sitting in a nice, cool, comfortable editing suite for weeks working on the same stuff that took you hours to shoot, and you're going to look at that same thing again and again, and you're like, oh my God, why didn't we do this? Or, you know, so it is that part, but unless you go through it a few times, I remember one thing, we were shooting in somewhere in the Bay Shore area, and it was so hot, and we were shooting this scene in the attic, and we had to turn off the exhaust fans for the noise, and it was so hot that I would remember like leaning over, and there was just like a puddle of sweat just pouring down there, and they screwed up the take, and we could just no, dude, we're shooting this again. And you're like, oh my God, they wanted to kill me. But you know what? When it was all done, they were happy that they had got what they needed to get. And this is, you can't make that up. There's enough CGI out there that you can redo, you know, a person. You know, it's not like when, it's funny, I used to do the soundtrack stuff too, and we were putting together soundtracks for this film, and a buddy of mine that you know, Tommy LaBella, a great saxophone player, and he, the guy that was doing it was a great producer, great engineer, and he was saying like, well, you know, after he played it through a few times, this stuff, he was like, okay, that should be good. And he goes, I think I can get it better. He goes, that's okay. I said, no, we can get it better. Let's do it. But he didn't really have to, because my friend can actually move those notes and make him so he's perfectly in tune, and he hits every note he wanted to. But there is that organic feeling that you need to do. But that's my friend, is actually can keep that organic feeling. But I like that organic feeling you have in your mind when people's stuff that they did is their stuff. You know?
I think that like really does exist too, like within the final product, is the feeling that you get from recording the product. You know what I mean? And shit like that. Like when you're really listening to that song, you know, feeling it. It's like if you half-ass that one take, it might be a degree less of feeling when you're in your car, you know, during the sunset or some shit.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, I don't know. I genuinely believe that, like, everything you put into it comes back out for the person that wants it, you know?
I agree. And you know, but once again, we're dealing with human beings, you know.
Yeah, I know.
And there's certain human beings, you know, professional people, like professional actors, professional musicians, get it better and better. You know, they usually can do it better. But people that are not professionals, usually the earlier takes are the best takes because they get a little bit
they're out of their own. They're out of their own way.
Okay, I'll say it like this. How do you want, you know? And they're a little bit of, you know, to that point. So I try to let people know that let's try to let's make sure. I don't want to do the rehearsals. Let's film the rehearsals on this. Let's do it the first time. Yeah. Sometimes the rehearsal is the best take out of all of it. And when you have certain people that are not high end, or they could be great one day, but these are their earlier kind of stabs at trying to direct or something like that too. And there's so much you have to think about, and it's just, you know, positions, you know, lighting, everything. Did everybody do a good job? Did the sound guy? Was everything perfect? Was the inflection right on the people that are talking? Did they look at each other? Did they hit their marks? Are they in focus? There's a million things, you know. And to me, making a movie, I equate it to like making a jigsaw puzzle. But rather than have a picture and you cut a jigsaw puzzle, you are making a jigsaw puzzle one piece at a time, and you're painting that picture on that jigsaw puzzle. Then you put that down. Then you got to make that next one. Now you want it to fit together, but you also want this whole scene to be what you wanted, and it's so rare that it actually gets to that point where it happens like that. Yeah. That to you know there's you know, depending on what rate you're shooting your film at, you know, 24, 29, there's 29, that's 29 places in each second that you can cut a film to edit it. So you're never going to get that exact same thing again and again. It's very difficult. So, but I mean, but it also, I think it brings up when things aren't, you know, until AI takes over for everybody.
I see that. But I think it goes back to you, like, getting out of the way of shit. Like, when you have that many things, when it's like, holy shit, there's a million things to think about. Well, I'm just going to think about one, and then two, and then three. Not all million.
You do. And you it's like, you know, but it's like driving a car. You know, you have to worry about somebody crossing the street. You have to worry about what side of the road you're on, how fast are you going, you know, turning your lights on, doing all that stuff too. And the more you do it, the more you get to that point of it's more of a vibe feeling on this. And hopefully you'll be that guy that it's the right vibe. But you know what? Sometimes maybe it's a different vibe. There's a lot of, you know, directors and writers and painters and artistic people that are just wonderfully talented that they just put something out there and say, what do you think of it? Well, how do you perceive it? You know, and you know, they're like, well, I guess I meant to do it like that because that's how everybody gets it, you know, and I'm like, you know, you're like weighing it out where you think, well, they're just BSing me or that's kind of the cool way to do it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's like you hear those musicians are like, oh, I have a million people come up to me and say like, the song meant like this to me. And the guy's like, I never meant it that way. You know? Like,
right. And, I know.
And he's like, oh, that's a great, I never thought of it like that, you know? And that guy's fucking staked years of his life on that line or something, you know?
Oh, yeah. And it's funny as people, you know, times go by and we have college courses that analyze paintings and pictures and songs and everything, you know, and this is what this means and that's what that means, and it's kind of funny though that, you know, you have I forget what movie I was watching or show or something last week, but they were have something about let's do a patriotic song like Born in the USA, and then the guy came back and he goes, you know, I was listening to that song and really about a Vietnam vet that's totally disenchanted with the USA, you know? You know? And it's funny, there's a lot of songs like Fleetwood Mac had that song Don't Stop Thinking About Tomorrow.
Mhm.
And that was Bill Clinton's, like, you know, yeah, don't stop thinking about tomorrow. And it's really a kind of a very depressing kind of song when you really hear when they wrote it. It was you know, it's like just give up, like it's going to come anyway. You know, but it is that you know, they had I can forget what movie it was in, where Woody Allen had this movie, and I always was a big fan of his movies. And he's waiting in line, and it's like he's behind a college professor from NYU, and I guess he went to NYU, and he was kind of had a little bit of a twig against it, you know. And the college professor was talking about Marshall McLuhan, you know, that was the father of television, you know, like the whole concepts and all this stuff, and they teach him in film school and all that stuff, you know, and communications. And he said, "Wow, Marshall says this and he's that," and he's like, you know, making his point, just being the guy that's like standing in line going to this thing, you know, and Woody Allen's behind him, like totally exasperated, and says, "Yeah, I don't think he meant that." And he goes, "Well, what would you know? I am a professor at NYU, and I teach communication, so I think I know." He's the father of communications, like the media, right? And he goes, "Well, I have Marshall McLuhan right here, and here you go." And the guy's like, "You are an idiot," you know? And but it's that kind of concept, is that we tend to, because we're so, like the people, I guess in the world, you know, I don't want to just say people in the U.S., but we're very, you know, I mean, if you read Facebook or you're on any of these other things, that everybody's so opinionated on and anti this and that, and tell you how to perceive stuff and do stuff. And I say, you know what, lay back and enjoy it. You know, you like it, it's good stuff. If you don't like it, maybe it's not for you, you know. So I try to that's my kind of thing on
that's been my thing this year, is like trying to hold like the both sides, like hold the paradox. Like you can hate stuff, and it's okay that you don't like things. There's also things you like, you know, and that's good. But like, I don't know. It's important as not being too like one-sided. Even
it's very hard, you know.
Even if you're right, you're still not entirely right, you know, all the time. It's never entirely right, you know.
I think a little bit of it's geographic too, you know. I mean, you can't. You know, you're influenced by, you know, your environment a lot too, you know, as to how you see something and how you feel something. Because I just can't believe that, you know, people in certain states in the South the water must be different because they all feel something totally different, and people in you know, New England feel something totally different, and people in New Jersey, and you know, it's you know, and you don't want to go political, because everybody believes their own politics, and you're not going to change them. So but I think that the slow influence that people have, I think if they get exposed to, you know, some of the stuff, which is, you know, some of these different you know, different things that are coming out, you know, however you see it, movies, TV, radio, whatever it is, you know, first comes out and you're like, ooh, I don't know if I like that, and then all of a sudden you're kind of like, wow, that's pretty cool. Or sometimes you think it's the most amazing thing ever, and it's not quite as good as you thought it was back in the beginning. I mean, when you think about growing up, I mean, I've lived through a lot of different ages of music, you know, and it's funny. It's like those silly, goofy songs that you know every single word to, you know, and you swear you never listened to that song, but somehow it's in the air, or the vibe, where now you're you know all the goofy stuff, and you're like, I never was listening to that stuff. Like, how do I know all this?
Isn't that weird that as much as like we don't want it to be, like the culture is you are the culture, and the culture influences you. Like it's just you know, it's just a relationship. But like people always want to be like anti-culture. I'm like, that doesn't exist. Like, you literally are just different. Like, you just are choosing I don't know. I just think it's that's funny.
It is fun, you know, and I get exactly where you're. Well,
You know what I mean?
well, my concept of your thing
anti-culture is your. Well, guess what? You're still a product of the culture. You just went like. You just didn't like it.
There's both sides of that coin where you sometimes you walk around thinking, wow, like I'm really cool. If you had really known me, like you don't get me, but you know, like you want to think that when you go to someplace and you know it's funny in editing when you're editing and totally immersed in editing, and we call it caveman mode, where you know it's your days, it's your 12-hour days every day. You're just editing the same stuff. I mean, Walter Murch took like a year and a half to 2 years to edit Apocalypse Now, you know, and you know when you get that, you know, like you see the people, it's like you almost. It's like you know them, like you know their souls. Like you're editing and you're seeing all the stuff on them. You're cutting them in, you're cutting them out. And I know I had worked on this thing called the Bluebells, where it was about maybe 10 women in their 70s or 80s that got together and exercised and did this and did that, and it was an interesting thing. And you know, just editing it and you're just immersed in every different personality of these different women. And when they had the premiere of the movie, that it was just, you know, small indie thing, and it was in Red Bank where they were doing the thing. And like the women were coming there, the ones that were still alive, some of them actually passed away because they were, you know, in their 80s or whatever. And you're like, oh, hey, how you doing? And they're like, yeah, who are you? You know? I've been looking at you for like the last 2 months, you know? You don't know
like
me, you know? That's funny. But that's the problem. It's like you just look at stuff and you're just thinking, wow.
Make up all these stories.
Oh my God. But, you know, but that's the funny part is anytime you're editing, you know, especially celebrities and music videos and all that, you just really feel like, this person knows me, like I know them so well, like I could have a conversation and they know me, you know, because I know them. They don't know you. They're like almost scared of you, like you're the stalker coming up on that too. So, but it is funny though, but there's different things that you know people get exposed to, which I love this field that I'm doing only because it changes. You know, I mean, cinematography changes so often that it's almost better to buy like a magazine like American Cinematographer than it is to buy a book on cinematography, because the like I say, that we've stated before, they you know just looks and concepts and everything change so quickly and dramatically.
By the time the book is published, it's like there's another camera model up, you know. Yeah,
right. And learning new cameras, and I just hit that point sometimes where I said I can't learn anything else. I mean, I can't learn another program.
Fucking menu.
Yeah. And it's you know, it's funny too that was working on something a few months ago, and they were saying, oh, does your, you know, the one thing, you know, and I mean, does your camera output this? And the one guy was like, no, it doesn't output like 1080, like we can't bring it down. Well, this thing only takes it in like that.
I know, it's like, oh, 1080, 60, but this only does 30 or
whatever. Right. And they were like, oh man, and the other guy was like, that's strange, because I would have thought it did, because it was pretty common, you know, Kodak.
Yeah.
And then another person came up and they were like, what are you guys doing? He goes, oh, I was trying to get it to do. He goes, oh yeah, that does that. And then one guy was an engineer, and you're like, okay, you know, I mean, you can't know everything. And the problem is that when you go into some of these things, and this is probably why when I go into a lot of stuff, if somebody tells me something, I'm like, okay, let's check it out, or let's see, you know. I will not fight them on something to say that, no, that doesn't work like that. You can only do this like this, you know. I mean, it's...
So the guy Mike, that K-Sound that I work for, he was a union electrician before he started. Mm-hmm. So in terms of like powering shows, he knows every way to do it. But guys that like run tours and stuff, and especially guys that run, tours for like whoever, bigger names, and they're younger guys, they might not have much experience, but they're doing higher end stuff. It's like they'll come to like a college but expect the standard, right, in like stadiums is going to be the top of the line, and they'll be at a college and Mike like rigs it a different way, and they start freaking out. And it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Mike just says, "Come on, dude. It's like it's come on, please. There's more than one way to roll a wheel here, but like
it's tough, and some of the things when I first get involved in them seem like it's all in Chinese. I don't have I don't know how stuff works, and I'm just fumbling through that. But after I expose myself to it a few times, I start to learn it, and then all of a sudden it starts to make sense to me, and then I'm like, oh wow, it's no longer the differential equations. It's just basic math. It's it just hits that point where you look at stuff and then you get the basic concepts. And I used to get people that would say, well, how do you learn that stuff so quick? Well, I know the basics of how these programs work. So these other ones are just different flags and whistles on that. And so I just have to learn which one is that,
Yeah. And even like Adobe, it's like for the similar concepts, they use the similar names and the similar logos and shit. So it's like once you learn one Adobe program, you can kind of learn another one.
It's tough, but they do change them too. I mean, it's you learn certain things from people. Where I remember the one person that would say, I never update before any big thing that I'm doing. I never will update.
Yeah, because it'll move a fucking menu and just
oh my god! It just I had one where we had the ATEMs, they had before they had the ones that everybody was doing over the pandemic. They had the one that was like the box, the ME1 or whatever, and it was all driven by software. Okay. And it had you could record. I mean, it would record your program out. You didn't have to stick something else in there to record your program out. And okay, this is great. And so that's how we were recording the thing. So my cameras did not have enough media to be able to do a full show, because those shows, like the rocket shows, go like more than 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours.
Yeah.
And the problem was, I updated, and I go to hit record, and it doesn't. It's ghosted. I'm like, what's going on here? And I can't. And I'm panicking, and going crazy. And then I look, and I was like, all right, well, we have to. As you get done with your cards, let me know, and come out and dump the card and stick another one in there. And, it was that, oh my God, it was just, and it was these P2 cards that are big cards. It wasn't like I could go out and buy more of those. Nope. And they were about $1,800 per card.
No shit.
Oh, yeah.
How big a memory card?
64 gigs.
Yo, that's fucking nuts.
I know.
What the fuck?
I know.
What kind of cameras?
That's the Panasonics. That's the still ones I use now. I still use them. The look on them is amazing. Yeah. The P2 concept was better than these other cards, because what it would do is you have a square receptor that the image goes on, right? And so for these other cameras, what they would do when it goes to HD, which is like 16:9, so it's wider than it is tall.
Yeah.
It would go from end to end, and you would have these little areas on top and bottom that did not get anything recorded on it.
Yeah.
So what this stuff used to do with the P2 card was it would, what they call, squeeze it. So it was squeezing image, so it would squeeze it into a square. So you would have more pixels that you would get. So it it's like, even though it was rated the same, it got a better picture.
Yeah.
And Panasonic actually knows their colors better too. So these cameras actually are good, and I still use them on the thing. Although, I mean, I have that because rather than having 4 cameras, I have 2 cameras, and I have enough that it will 64 gigs. You know, or it's 1 gig per minute on the P2 card. So that gives you. Well, it's a little bit more than that, but it gives you about an hour and maybe 10 minutes. So 2 cards are 2 hours and 20 minutes. So if you have another 32 gig card, that's another half. So it's like almost 3 hours
like
for your show.
$3,000.
Yeah. So you're just, but it makes you crazy. But now they have what you guys have too, which is you can have a recording monitor that will record in ProRes. From your camera. And the funny part about it is it looks better than if you actually record it to the card, because if you put it to that,
it looks so much fucking better.
It does, because it's not compressing it at all.
Yeah.
It's giving it the full ProRes thing that's going onto this hard drive, and you look at it, you're like, oh my god, this is, you know, it's like you don't want to get rid of this camera now.
I know.
But it's a pain in the ass,
Going out from RAW with picture profile 7 and then recording in ProRes. Oh, yeah.
It looks great.
You got so much room. I couldn't believe the amount of room you have to fucking play with.
Yeah, you got like just 12, right? 12 stops of
even just compared to like the standard. So I mean, obviously just compared to, but like what comes out of the Sony looks really, really good if you nail the shot. Yeah. But then there's some times where I haven't done it. And it's like, I'm like, oh my god, I'm still keeping the tack sharp. And I'm just like, well.
It's tough. You know, we have this, you know, we shoot in RAW in the Blackmagic cameras. And it gives you, you know, a lot more color. Because it looks almost like a negative before you put a LUT in there. And which gives it the look. And it's funny. It gives you a lot of different thing, but then they also have these color programs like DaVinci that can really almost add the color. Unless you totally blow out something, you can really save it. And I have seen stuff that just looked like crap, and by the time they got done colorizing it, it looked amazing, you know. And you know, when we were doing the show with Jon Stewart, he's running all over the stage, and so we had to kind of try to keep him in a pretty consistent light, and so we had a spotlight, but the spotlight, which should have been, you know, a better color temperature, it was a little too blue, and so when he's lit up, it's very blue, you know. And the same thing with anybody's taking a solo, the spotlight would be on them, you know. So it ups the exposure, so there's a lot of things to do, and you know, it's tough, you know. I mean, you're looking at this, I'm looking at that. Other people are just trying to direct for the first time, and to, you know, there's a lot of things to think about, and you're looking at the camera, you're looking at the shots, but some of the shots are a little too hot, but they still look okay. Yeah. But you realize that if you just took care of it right now, then in post you don't have to take care of it then, and there's a million things you have to think of, but I call that job security, you know, because if you can master all these things at the same time, then they want you back, you know. If you can, you know, like with this show, we had some of the artists got sick, you know, and they were the main people, and the guy that was the head of that, he's the head of the company and everything. Constantly, when I would see him, and I'm trying to put a show on, and he's like, I got to talk to you. Come here. We got to go somewhere nobody can hear us. Okay. Our main guy is sick, or our main guy has COVID, or, you know. Okay, well, what are we going to do? Well, then we have to send somebody to do a remote shoot of the guy. Then we have to edit it. We have to put it in. There was a lot of stuff to do. But they look at you, and when all these bad things happen, and you still have a great show, they're like, it's job security, you know? I mean,
I've seen that.
I want you back. Are you kidding me? There was nothing but curveballs today. I mean, and here we are stopping them with our face, you know? I mean, it's like, you know, and you're sitting there thinking, yeah, that's kind of what happens in any live shoot. There's always that human element that's going to come in. It could be, you know, people are overdoing it. You blow the fuse. I was shooting a show. We were doing this variety show of this guy Big Joe Henry, and in McLuhan's, and they were trying to make it. It was a pretty cool show. It was on MeTV for one season. You know, we did like I think 23 episodes or something, and I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun, but it was tough because it was live and we were inside there cutting the show. We got all the guys, like, you know, people hanging up like above where people are eating dinner, and they got a camera set up there. And it was tough, and that
is a lot. It's like, don't have anything in your pockets, please. Like,
oh my God, it was hard to figure that out.
The little stuff.
But we had one, and it was all of a sudden they had a flipping blackout in Asbury, and it cut everything down, you know. And not only when it's the summertime, and so you're assuming it's too many people using air conditioners, whatever, you know. But when you're in a club and suddenly there's no air conditioning, that on a very hot summer day, it gets brutally hot in there. And, you know, it is what it is. And it's funny too, because I always try to train people too that you just gotta always be careful what you say. You know, you gotta. I mean, it's some people can complain, but you just try not to. But you know, the thing is, you always. I mean, I guess because I'm used to doing corporate work, I did probably corporate video for maybe 20 years, and always had to make sure that somebody didn't have a microphone that was left on them from that, and it was still hot, and you could say something to somebody, and oh my God, that guy was the biggest asshole I ever met, and they're like, dude, my mic's on, you know. It's like, you just told the whole control room that, you know. And I've seen it happen where one person, they actually banned him there, and it took him 5 years before he could get back in there, because he said that the director was the stupidest, and then the guy that was the whole head of the whole place, it was in the bathroom. He was just talking to the guy taking a pee next to him, and he didn't realize that the guy was in one of the stalls taking a poop, you know, and he comes out like, who was that guy? He's not coming back. But I had it, and that's what made me think of that, was that during the Big Joe thing, I was like, well, it's going to be like an hour before this comes back on. Let's get some shots of Asbury Park. Like, just, come on, guys. Just, you know, give some nice, you know, good shots of that. I want some beauty shots of Asbury Park. Okay. Well, while they were shooting, the one guy that I was working with was just complaining, oh my God, I can't believe he made us go out there and do that. Screw this. You know what? Take this, and then let's go get a beer and just tell them we were out there shooting the whole time. And then you're like, then when you're going through the shots and editing, and all of a sudden you hear the guy say that, you're like, okay, as he's saying, I did all I could, man, I did my best, I was shooting all this stuff, oh my God, and this happened, and that happened, and everything, and then you're like, let me play something for you, man. Dude, here's you admitting to me.
These horror stories are what's gonna like probably keep me a job at some point, because fucking sometimes I just say shit that it's like it's on my mind, and the other person just takes it the wrong fucking way. It's like, I didn't even mean it like that. Whoa. But like, no, I know. One of my friend Nick Perry, shout out Nick Perry, Start Monday Media. He gave me one of the best pieces of advice. He's young too. He's got a kid. A couple years old. He's only a few years older than I am. But he was like, yeah, like, you know, hire these people and go out to these places and like whatever. It's like, he's been, you know, doing his business longer than me, and he's like, yeah, it's one thing. every single time. You know, it's the photographer's fucking up, or someone gets lost going to Staten Island, or this fucking thing didn't show up at the right time. It all seems to work out as long as I just shut the fuck up. And it was like...
Good advice,
Seriously, because it's like, there's been so many times where I look back and it's like, the guy who's like the guy that day, when shit's going down, he just shuts the fuck up. And it's like, you know, it's never the guy that's really the man who's talking when shit's hitting the fan, you know? It's always the fucking B or C or D guy, you know? It's running his mouth, which is me. But
well, it's hard too, you know. The thing is when you're young, you know everything, you know, which I always did. You know, I had the biggest mouth growing up. Oh my God, I would comment on everybody and just tell everybody how to do their work and job. And if something happened, if somebody made a mistake or something, I'd be the first one to be laughing away at them and stuff like that. And then you just at that point where, as you're getting older, you just realize when you're that guy that something happens to, and you're red faced, and you got one guy laughing at you, and you're like, "I'm going to kill that guy."
You want to hear something funny?
Yeah.
So it's like one time where it's like, you know, shit just doesn't matter, and it's not like I did really anything wrong or whatever, but I just didn't need to say shit because it was already fine, right? Like, and it was not ideal, but it's gonna be fine anyway. So I'm like, when we did that little short thing, Rich put one of the Hollylands on my camera while it was on the gimbal while it was on, and the Hollylands are heavy, and it I came back to my camera and the motors are all sideways.
Oh boy!
He fucking just weighted the camera down and it was like fucking twitching. But I didn't know that Rich did it, and if I knew that it was Rich, I wouldn't have given a shit. You know what I mean? But I thought it was someone random who didn't know my cameras or didn't know cameras or something, and like I was over there with Henny. And I was like, all fucking fired up. I was like, why would someone fucking do that? So stupid, man. Like, what an idiot. What an idiot would do that? Like, because that's retarded. Like, and I was just so pissed and like going off on like, who would do such a thing? And I found out, and Rich came up to me. He's like, hey, did you see the Hollyland on your camera? I was like, yep, thank you. I saw it.
Well, I love Rich. And he's definitely, he's a guy, he is definitely, he's very talented, but sometimes he don't always bring it, you know, I mean, he can be a little bit, but, you know, I think that he doesn't realize that, I mean, he's definitely, he hangs out with a lot of, there's like a whole group. There's like 20 of them that go and they party and all that stuff.
They do the Dirty Richie shoots.
I don't know. There's, you know, but I think that it's funny. When I first started working with him, he was like, "F that. Yeah, I'm not doing that. Yeah. F that. We're not doing." They didn't pay us for that. Yeah. And he was always like that, but he's really changed a lot over the past, and where he's almost got the fire where he realizes, I mean,
I really like working with Rich.
Yeah,
he's got that.
He's not a stupid guy. He's very smart. He's got a college degree in filmmaking and all that stuff too. He went to Rutgers, but you know, he definitely has gotten to that point where he used to be a little bit more like, you know, phoning it in and that kind of stuff and show up a little bit later. Right? But he's gotten so much better now. He's really, you know, you can count on him, but you gotta let him know that you're counting on him. Like you can't just give him a free wheel and say, do it however you want, Rich.
He's very relaxed.
Yeah, he's a pretty relaxed cat.
He's
a great man, and I think that, I mean, and Larry's more on the intense side of, and Larry, you know, which I have to thank because I used to do this.
Yeah, when he's in like glasses Larry mode, I'm like, fuck yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah. Well, when him and I did these one shoots up in this place called Roseland, New Jersey, and they were these meetings, and they were called town halls, and they were just, you know, have, you know, like 4 people up there talking, you know, and
I gotta change the battery on this thing.
Too.
What?
If you push the thing up.
What?
I think it's this thing. If you push it up,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It will lock it.
Oh, so I can't like
And now
press it.
now something can't hit it because
Oh.
I was actually at a thing and loud music turned it off.
No shit.
Yeah.
Like vibrated the battery.
It vibrated
out or
it,
something.
and then it made it feel like it got touched and turned
No
on.
way.
So that lock will hold it on.
Whoa.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, good to know.
Anyway, what were you talking about with? Larry. I was talking about with Larry. This was, you learn something from everybody, and I went in all cocky and all this stuff too.
Yeah.
And I was doing. I would have the. I was doing the audio, right, and all I was doing was the guy had the audio for the room. And then he was sending me a feed, and I was just doing the levels, just the volume level of the audio.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he had this stuff, right? So basically all I'm doing, it's like a 2-hour meeting, and it's very boring. And I'm just making sure that it keeps very constant, and I forget, it's like the guy screwed up or did something, and the guy that was doing the room audio. And Larry goes, well, that's on you, man. You have to make sure that these, and I was like, this is not my fault, and it was like, and we always have a thing, might not be your fault, but it is your problem, And so I would get to that point, and I would check and double check everything he was doing and making sure all that stuff so that everything came out. And I would start recording before he had it. And the thing is that sometimes, because he was a rock and roll kind of audio guy, that sometimes check.
Yeah.
Well, they don't say check. They come in and say good morning. Hey, how you doing? And, they want to hear that good morning. They can't. If you lose that, so we kind of.
That's funny, yeah.
Yeah, did that. And I would record it. Now, it came through my mixer, and then I would have outs that I would put to the 2 cameras that were there, because they had one wide camera and one tight camera. And they would... I remember one time, I think I would record that audio because you have a little SD card, and it wasn't a lot, because it was only a stereo mix of what was coming out, and the thing was maybe an hour or 2. So that 1 hour was, maybe 700 megs or something. Like, it wasn't huge, right? And I always had like a 16 gig card, SD card in there. And I would hold on to it, And I remember once or twice, and this was doing it years, where they would say, dude, any way you recorded that? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Is there any way we can get that? Yep.
Mm-hmm.
They'd be like, oh my God, you just saved my life.
Mm-hmm.
These people would be like, the audio on this thing got screwed up or something.
Dude, this thing has saved my life so much.
I know. But when you're a guy that you've been road tested and this kind of crap happens to you, you end up doing it every time, it's like
redundant. I got redundant, everything redundant here.
Oh yeah. And it's like if you got a doctor that low back pain means you've got something or whatever, he's, you come in for a headache, he'll say, do you have low back pain with that too? I mean, if it's like, you know what I mean? If they ever get bitten, they don't, once bitten, twice shy. It's like they don't want to make that same mistake. So when you see me doing stuff a certain way, I always will try to make sure that I'm not that guy that got caught looking when, strike 3 came by, so.
That's funny. Yeah. So how did you get into doing all the video stuff? So I don't even really know that story. So you were running nightclubs.
Yeah.
At one point.
Well, I went to college.
Yeah. So you went to NYU.
I went to. I was taking. I went to first. I went to like UTEP, University of Texas El Paso, and then I was taking courses in. I went into the service. I was in the Army got drafted, and 1972, and I was in till, and I volunteered like an extra time just that I could get some education in there, you
Yeah.
know. And then when I got out, I had I was in medical when I was in the service, and when I got out, you had a GI Bill and you could take classes and everything. So I was kind of like still finding my way, and I was kind of working part time in X-ray because I learned that when I was in the service, and it was okay. I mean, it wasn't a ton of money, but it was okay. It was
Yeah.
better than McDonald's type money, but it wasn't quite up to. It was like teacher's money, you know.
Yeah.
It was like you could maybe barely live on it, and. Then I was taking class courses, and I was taking communications. First, I started in medical. I mean, I bio degree and all that, but then I was like, I changed to communications, and that's when I started with the film. And it's funny, like some of the people that I worked with actually started their own. One person had his own film editing, had the first digital editing thing in the United States. He had the first digital editing machine.
Huh.
It was like, you know, whatever, the
Really?
hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything was a ton of money. So you either had to be extremely serious on that. Rich was into stuff when he went to school, and I mean, he had the cameras, the Betacam cameras, and all these different things that. You know, these were $50,000 cameras he had, you know, and above that. And editing
Damn.
suites were you know, 30, 40, 50,000, you know,
Yeah.
100,000. And I was in that for a while, and I was like, that was great. I like photography, I like video. And then I just started, I was managing bands at the time too, kind of, and then I started working at some clubs, and I was working at this Big Man's West, which Clarence Clemens owned in Red Bank, and was managing that for a while, and I got involved in, because I had a lot of different groups. It was original music. The place was like an original music kind of place, so I had a lot of bands that were coming through there, and you know, sometimes like a band is really great. I'm sure you have bands that are local bands that you're like, oh my god, how do they not make it?
Yeah.
And you know, really, sometimes it's just a choice of the time that they just chose someone else instead of them. So I was thinking back then that this was in 83, 84, that what happens to this music? Like, these guys make this music, and if they don't make it, it just like the music goes off and it hits a shelf, and nobody ever hears it again, because it's not like they're going to keep playing original music for if they don't make it. You know, they're going to go and start, you know, becoming surgeons or painting houses or whatever, you know, to get a career and say, hey, I used to be in a band, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe this music, because they started making films, started getting, and I got involved. I always was kind of involved with films too, and I was thinking that it would be interesting if we could put together a company that would take all the best music that was kind of focused for soundtrack music and solicit it to different small companies and big companies. So that's what I did. So that's got me back into the music part, but also as I started finishing up, you know, at NYU and all that too, I was getting back. I was already kind of two-thirds of the way in there anyway, and I just kind of finished, you know, the whole thing, because suddenly filmmaking became much more affordable then, you know.
What year was that?
Well, that was in like probably 84, 85, you know. Then people were switching where, I mean, I shot stuff on film and 16 and all that stuff too, but it got to that point where it was the digital stuff was more starting to be accepted, and the editing stuff started to be more affordable, and this stuff became more and more affordable. So I just started to, we got these Panasonic DC-100 cameras, which used to take tapes, but they were digital, and they looked really great, shot really well, and people were doing indie films with them too. And people stopped having that concept of everything had to be, this exact film thing, and you didn't need to have, Elmer Bernstein writing music for your movie and stuff like that, where, and it became a little more pop oriented, the music that was getting into the movies, and so we were kind of pushing that, and we put in stuff into smaller movies and stuff like that. But as I was, I always enjoyed the filmmaking process too, and so I just got more involved into it then. And I actually was doing more audio recording for location sounds because nobody was doing it, and I had more work than I really needed, and the rates went from $300-$400 a day to $500-$600 a day, and if you can. And the days doing corporate work, which any job I do my best, and I try to, make it so that it's always keeps it interesting too, and that helps, with doing corporate stuff. I mean, you think of it like, man, how boring is that? But it wasn't that it was boring, because you always are involved in the minutia of shooting, you're always making sure the shot is perfect. And a lot of those guys had worked for NBC, and
shut this window.
It was yeah.
Kids.
Well, and a lot of these guys that work for NBC, and they did get Emmys and stuff like that. And they had their stuff together, and we were and these are really professional studios that they had up there too. And I worked for the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation for about 6 months or 8 months, and we did a big video where it was like a DVD that went to every firehouse in the U.S. and I would travel all over the U.S. with these guys, shooting and editing in the hotel room on the laptops and all that stuff too. So it was kind of it was good, like grunt work, where it was easier to just kind of do what you're told, and it wasn't real innovative, but you made sure everything you did was great. Yeah. So they loved you for that, and they were a good group of guys. I mean, I met Larry back then, and he was in and out of it. He was in it, then he got out of it and went into construction after 9/11. Because they kind of dried up with doing the videos. So it was like a difficult thing to maintain. So I just do it. I mean, I was, being married, my wife always had health insurance and stuff, so that allowed me to kind of be able to take these freelance jobs, because you made a lot more money on the freelance stuff, And the jobs, when I finally went into the corporate world, probably about 15 years ago or so, or 20, about that. It was after 2001, but you would go in, you'd work for sometimes you would have a setup day, and you'd set everything up and run through everything. That's a full day of pay. Yep. Then you go back the next day and you do the shoot. It would start probably 8 o'clock in the morning, and you'd be done by 10.
Yeah.
And you'd be driving home at 10:30, you know, and that was 2 days pay, you know. You start one day at noon, and you end the next day at you know, it was probably between the 2 days, probably 6 hours of work, you know, and you got 2 full days pay, and it was pretty cool. And they were really fun people to work with too. They were nice, and I was doing music videos and doing films and all that stuff. Before I did the corporate work, that was in mid to late 80s, I guess I was starting to work on the indie film kind of a thing. But
have you done stuff that I would know?
No, not really. I mean, we did a lot of music videos, you know.
Oh, yeah.
We did work for like Nora Jones, who was big back then, and Scaggs, and there's a bunch of other people that we had done the stuff for, which made it. I mean, those were fun. I mean, they paid okay. You know, we had this one guy, George Paris. We shot a thing for him in Lincoln Center, and that was huge. I mean, we were like this place that hired us. We're pretty much like the Billionaires Boys Club, so they had a lot of whatever to pass around, money and everything. And you know, they flew us to Chicago and a bunch of, and they wasn't right for me. I went and did other work than that, but some of the other guys hung in there. Larry hung in there for them for much longer time than me. But it's that kind of work was, you know, when you're working with just a small team of people, you can get on each other's nerves a little bit too, you know, and because it's not different people all the time when you're working, and you just come in and you leave. Where you come in, you start at 7 in the morning and you work until 11 o'clock at night, and then you're starting again the next morning at 7, and it just was not for me, and I wasn't a big fan of it. So, and they weren't a big fan of me. So I think it really worked out. You know, where you know sometimes you walk around and you think, hey, you're the greatest guy ever, and you come into a different scenario of workers, and it's not a good fit. You know,
I've had that before.
Oh yeah, and when I was doing the Comedy Cellar up in New York, that was. They brought me. I got hired for that from a friend of mine because I had the switcher, and I had switched a lot of shows doing the corporate work. You get used to being a technical director, and that's just a guy switching the cameras and everything, and you get used to it, and it's not bad once you get used to it. You know, I mean, it's fun, and it's a little intense because it's live. And so the guy, he wanted to do it, but when we went and set up, he was like, can you just be the technical director on this one? And I want to make sure everything works out great the first time, and then I'll get into it. Yeah. Well, the guy that was the producer of the show, when we got done, and that's why I was saying that, when I get up there and I work, I do my stuff. I don't really BS around. I had to cable the places. I had to run it up. We're doing everything, and it was like I was sitting in like a booth, and it was really not almost enough room, and you're kind of jammed in there. And the other guy was, there were my comms that we were using, and he was. Saying that him and I are doing a show together, and then he decides that after the show was done, he loved it, but he only wanted me to come back. He didn't want the other guys to come back because I guess it was I'm kind of, they set their camera up and then they just kind of relaxed, did nothing. Yeah. Where I actually had to cable all the cameras, run the cables through that place. It's a club. Comedy Cellar, New York, and it's like running it through the ceiling. There's like a million things up in that ceiling too, it's a little spooky. But, and then I told him that if I were coming back, I had to have the guy that got me the job come back. And they were going, well, we already got people to do that stuff. It's just going to be you, because I just need somebody that can be the technical director. I don't need the camera guys. I don't need these guys. I said, well, this guy got me the job, you know,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I can't. I'm loyal, you know,
That's
and I would rather not work than I would just stab my friend in the back that got me the job. So he said, I'll tell you what, I'll get back to you. I said, all right, well, thanks. It's been nice knowing you. If you don't
Yeah,
mind
right.
me." And then he said, he calls me back and he goes, all right, well, we can hire him.
There you
He can do one of the cameras. Okay. And still, this guy did nothing but complain. From when we left to go to New York and when we came back about, this is too long. Because what it was is they did a show early because it was broadcast around the world in 65 countries, but it was in the Middle East and all that stuff. So we had to do one at 3 o'clock, then we had to do one at like 5 or 6 o'clock, then we had to do another one at 9 o'clock. So and it ended up being like 3 shows a day, and he just was like, "This is not enough money." And I'm thinking, it's the middle of the pandemic. It was literally, 2021 January, when nobody was working, you know, and so we were working. I mean, I had, you know, and I got all my guys back in there too. He had his guys, but his guys were all professional guys that worked on movies. They had a list on IMDb like a mile long. They were good. They were very professional, really good. I could see why he wanted them. It wasn't like my guys were horrible. It's just that he wanted his guys. And that's how, it's all cronyism in Hollywood and that. And after 17 shows, I kind of like hit that point of, you know,
enough of this.
I was so burned out. Like live cutting shows, and you got the guys like over your show. You know, it was hard work, and I had like a bit of a cough I developed from wearing a mask probably all the time because we had to wear the mask. We were in the room when they were doing it, and I was like, I got this cough and I can't get rid of this cough, and I don't want to be shooting this show when I have this cough because you know, comedians would be like, who keeps coughing?
Yeah, I know. You're like, it's the fucking guy in charge.
Yeah. So, excuse me. We ended up. So I kind of said. He goes, well. I said, well, let this guy that I know that wanted to be the technical director, let him be the guy, and he was like, oh, all right. And he let him do the thing, and then he became the technical director. And then he hired Rich and Larry because this guy was doing camera, and he needed a camera guy. So then he hired Larry. Then Larry got Rich in there. You know, it's like we got the whole team back in on the show. And the guy kept saying, and he kept telling me, call me all the time, saying, you know, dude, I just want to let you know that your job is always open up here. That, you know, just come back and work, you know. I mean, we had such a great time working together, you know. It's like, just work. I was like, yeah, okay, you know, but I didn't want to go up there. It was in New York City. It's hard. And it's stressful. And I don't like that kind of stress, you know, so... But which is what I keep telling everybody. I was retiring, and everybody keeps busting my hump. Like, dude, you were retiring, like, because I literally was retiring. I turned 66.
George has been retiring since the day I met him.
Yeah. Well, I turned 66 in November.
That's John.
There he is.
What's up, John? We're doing an interview right now.
Oh, okay.
Do you mind if we just finish this up in 5 minutes?
What's that?
Do you mind, actually, it doesn't
No,
matter.
I can wrap. I can hang out for 5.
Okay. Can you give me 5 minutes, actually?
Yeah.
Sorry. Not to... I was trying to time it right, and I didn't. Yeah. I blew it by like 20 minutes. But, that's John. He's in my networking group.
Cool.
He does...
Hey.
Also rents me a room. Great guy.
Cool.
But
I was going to retire in 2019. I turned 66, and I was going to retire, and I had like a nice 401k, all the stuff ready to go.
Yeah.
Going to travel, do all that crazy stuff. My wife was going to work for 1 more year, 2 more years, and I was just going to make films. Do what I want to do, you know. That's all going to be passion pieces, you know.
Yeah.
And the pandemic hit, and like,
Yeah.
what the hell do you do? You
Yeah.
know, I mean, it
Yeah.
was, and then my wife stopped working too.
Mhm.
She stopped working. She was supposed to
Yeah.
work 2 more years, but it didn't matter because you know what? She worked very hard,
Mhm.
and you know, she can might as well enjoy life. You know, you get to that point where you get older and you try to. But all of a sudden, it's like all these. It's as soon as I said I was retiring, everybody kind
Wants to
of
work
got
with you
that
because
point
they don't want
where
to miss
they
the
were.
George
Yeah.
boat. All right, so
Yeah.
what's going to be the passion project that you look forward to for the next kind of year or so?
Well,
What are you trying to
right
get
now.
done
Right
for?
now, I'm doing all the video for the Grammy Museum,
Okay.
and it's kind of fun.
It's
We've
fun.
worked on it. It's okay. That Freehold stuff was okay, and
Mhm.
then we did Gary Tallian from
Yeah,
Springsteen's
yeah.
band. It was fun. You know, I mean, a lot of this stuff is cool, interesting
Yeah.
stuff. And the pay is okay, you know. I mean, it's not going to retire on it, but and then we just did the first of the American Music Honors, which
Sweet. Do you think you're in there with the mama stuff for now with the video now? Yeah. so-
oh, I think so. I mean,
After
who
that last
knows? They told me I was locked in for that. They want me for the rest of it, and then they just actually called me on the way here and just said, you know.
Yeah.
Make sure that you're, you know, I just finished up this stuff for PBS. It'll be on in the end of June.
See, they want you
Yeah.
with or without the eye.
Yeah, so, and it says, you know, and I detached my retina
Yeah.
9 days before the show, which really screwed me up. But the problem I had too was that the lid of my eye just kind of did not like what was happening. So it looked horrible.
Yeah.
Like horror story horrible.
Yeah, yeah.
So I couldn't really do it, and I had to end up wearing a patch for this show, and then I had this problem, like a post-surgical problem with my cornea. You know, it's like one of those things that, you know, I like to stay busy. I like to work. I like to work on music videos. I like to have fun. I do. I enjoy the heck out of doing video. I
Yeah.
really do. I just, you know, maybe not setting the cameras up and all that stuff too, but that I do actually like that part of it too.
I like it too
and
sometimes.
but I just want to make sure that everything I do is nice. And all these cameras that we have are very sensitive to making sure that they're all shooting the same way.
Yeah.
You know, there's
It's easy.
there's a lot of ways you could do it,
Yeah.
but
Last
I'm
thing.
just trying to do it.
So you're a happy guy, seems like.
I enjoy life. I really have a good time.
I attest to that. George
Yeah.
is rad, and he has a rad wife, Cindy. It seems like they have a lot of fun together, and it seems like they live a really good life. And what can you tell a person my age that can get you to live in happy at 69 with one eye?
Happy at 69 with one eye. Yeah. Well, I tell you what. I mean, you know, I'm one of my favorite sayings is that, hey, listen, if you could live your life backwards, you could make all the right choices because you would know what caused it, and you go back and you would do it. I would say that life goes by very quickly. I mean, you just, and the older you get, the faster it goes by. It might be just a mathematic problem that, you know, rather than a year being
Yes.
at 10% of your life, now a year is like
I think it's just
1% of your life.
exponential perspective.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And but it's that point. But I think that, you know, stuff is a long run. I'm very careful with trying to put money away. I'm trying to put something that's a legacy thing for me too.
Yeah.
Be it money, be it buying things that are you save and hold on to them or
Yeah.
whatever, and then you can release them later on in life or whatever. But I think that you do what you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
If you can find what you really like to do, what they say is you never work a day in your life. You know, you just, you know, the money is really second hand to, you know, to the work. Like you would do it for nothing, and you just go in there and you enjoy it, and you do stress to make it the best you can do it. And I think if you keep doing that, and I try to do that in everything I do. Now, I never did that before. When I was young, you know, you do something, it's
Yeah,
like,
you
yeah,
kinda
that's good
half-ass
enough, I
it.
don't care, you know. But now I try to make sure that even if I don't care what I'm doing, if I'm making my bed in the morning, I make it like I would be in a hotel the way they would make it. I mean, if I do everything I do, I want to do it to the best of my ability. I don't know what that is now, and I don't know if it's because I've become crazy, you know,
Yeah.
OCD guy, or if it's just that I just love to have everything.
You like to be dialed in, and it
Yeah.
feels good when you are.
It does. It does. It makes me feel good, and I
Me
like
too.
stuff to be the best it can possibly be
Me
to
too.
work the way it should work. You know. So
Yeah, I know. Yeah. That's a good way to end it.
yeah. Anyway, well,
Nailed
thanks.
it.
Good luck on this thing. too, you know.
You know it's gonna be good.
Ah,
Hell
cool.
yeah. No, I'm stoked on this. This is
good, yeah.
exactly what I wanted. You
Oh,
know,
good.
This is the goal
Uh-huh.
for all of this. Is to, oh, my key holder's on. Let me turn it off.
Yeah, you gotta unlock it, right?
Unlock.
Oh.
Go tell John I kind of fucking kicked him out of his own house. Sorry. I was just gonna tell you. Finish. Sorry about that.